Hey, how are you guys doing? Good to see you. We had such a long stream on Saturday. I can't believe you guys stuck around for that long. So, no more of that. Like, we need to, like, not make you guys sit here for hours just because I am a completionist and I like to finish things. So, I think I'll start doing more, like, two-part projects. That way, it's a manageable chunk. People rewatching it can see the whole video before watching the next part. And it gives you a chance, if you want to sew it along, to look at it in smaller increments. So I feel like it'll be a little bit easier that way. So let me brighten it up because, well, let me see. When I take this away, let's see how the brightness does for the fabric. Oh, that's a little better, huh? Okay. So today we're making this backpack from the Makingzine issue, the color issue, and it's Noodlehead's design, and then she made it available for sale on her website. And I love Makingzine and the people behind it. I love Noodlehead's things. I've never made any of her patterns. So many people make them. And honestly, I just haven't because I've been sewing so much for our own thing going on here. So it's really fun to combine both of these and do this backpack. And I obviously I love making bags almost as much as I like making garments. So this backpack is pretty roomy looking, and there's options to make it with waxed canvas or other materials. I'm not using waxed canvas. It's pretty beefy, I will warn you. It is pretty stout stuff to work with. It's one of the reasons we don't use it here. It's very hard on my hands, and my hands are getting tired. And I never wanted my sewers to have to do that. So, but I love it. It's amazing stuff, and it's readily available now and in other colors. And she has resources for that. So if you want to do the wax canvas, you can also... if you use wax canvas, you'll be able to omit some of the stiffeners and pellons and things like that, so it is fewer steps in the prep. But it is a bit of a, like she says, a wrestling match for the last couple steps. Anything. Like when we use stiffener, and stiffener can have the same issue, the stiffener just seems to be a little bit more pliable. So, just pick your poison there. So I'm going to use our stiffener that we use here because I have it readily available, and I'm just going to put it on one side. I did interface my pieces. I was a good girl, and I followed the instructions, and I did all the things that they recommend because I want it to be as similar to what you might do at home. So this is what we're doing. I printed out the instructions here. You do have to make your own pattern pieces or just draw it with a grid ruler right on the fabric. And a lot of these, like, you're not making all of these items. You're only making like this many items and maybe one other. I think just one other, like the pocket lining, and that's it. It's very straightforward. You're just repeating using that same piece to cut over and over again. And what I did was I layered my fabrics, like my canvas, my lining, and my interfacing where I could. That way I didn't have to, relay out the fabric over and over again, but you could totally do that. So I also am using canvas as as the woven lining option. I'm pretty sure it didn't say that it needed to be fusible, but then when I saw in the instructions, it is fusible, but mine's not. I'm just going to lay a layer of canvas underneath it. I have a lot of canvas around here, and then I also know that it'll shrink the same, so if I ever wash the backpack, that's why I'm going to do that, because I did pre-wash these fabrics. The catnap is pre-washed. It's going to be my lining. All the interior seams are bound. It's going to help any shrinkage that happens if I ever do that. So let's get to it, because we're not going to be here for long, and I'm going to try and find a good halfway point and get, don't hold it against me if I go a little further, because I get really eager. I want to finish the project. So let me know if you can hear me and see me okay. I think the brightness okay for this level of dark fabric here. I'm looking at my camera there. I found this little trim here, so I'm going to add it to these little zip tabs. I'm just going to gild the lily a little bit, and I just found it, so that's why I was going to do it. And I'm going to do it all in one step. So this is just like the little tab at the end of the zipper opening that's on the top of the bag. It's purely a spot for your hand to grab while you're opening your bag or closing your bag. So Just gonna do 2 of them at the same time. And I did make all of my webbing pieces that you see here because, well, I wanted webbing to match or be a color I really liked. And I didn't have one that I liked in the right width. I had one, but it just wasn't the right width. It was 2 inches wide, and that's just too wide. Like 1.5 is ideal for this. Okay. And I'm just sewing it in one. These are 2 separate tabs, but it just kind of keeps it, you know, behaving while I do it. And here I am further gilding the lily here. So this fabric, this catnap fabric, when I first saw this, I was really late to the party. And pretty disappointed that I missed out on using it for chicken boots. I mean, I know we're known for novelty prints, but personally, they're not my #1 choice. So if I do it, I do want something that I really like. And see, now I have 2 tidy little pull tabs, and so that'll just go. Ooh, they're very stiff. We'll see if I use it. I'm pretty sure it'll be fine. I have 2 backups because I made extra thinking I needed 4. So this will just go on the end of the zipper, the top bag opening, and we'll just set them aside for later. I also got out 2 binding choices. So personally, I'm a really big fan of micro prints, like little tiny prints. That's what I call micro prints. I love them. Like I tend to buy them too often for us here, and there's like a single bolt of a lot of different ones just sitting around. And I will make them in binding sometimes and wrap our packages up that we send out or something. But I just love little tiny prints a lot. And I love this one. We used it in Dala. And I know it would look really good with this. It's a kind of a softer thing. But I know that this one looks better. Like, because remember, it's going to be like this much showing on the interior of the bag around. So don't you think that looks a little better? It looks a little orange on your screen, but it really matches the colors that pick up here. It's either that or this. That looks good too, because of the gray kitties. It kind of has like a bluish gray background. What do you guys think? Eee. So I'm trying to decide, because the one thing I'm going to do a little bit differently is I'm going to bind the top edge of my pocket that's on the outside of the bag. So I want to pick before I get too far. It's like my first step. So let's see. I'll just prep my pieces here a little bit. So here I have, this is my lining. This is my outer fabric. And this is my interlining. This piece isn't interfaced in the instructions, but almost all the others are. So this one will be interfaced. So it is pretty stout when you're done. You don't really need a whole lot of extra oomph. So it's gonna go like this. So I am using that as lining in the pocket. Most people won't see it, but I'll know it's there. The bag has 1/2 inch seams. So remind me when I ask you guys, what is it again? I would totally do 1/2 inch seams on something like this. We use a 1/4 inch at Chicken Boots for most everything because we're binding everything and we don't want to start with something too wide. You think the softer one too? You like the bright one? You guys, you're partial to roses. Okay, so maybe this will help you decide. So this is the outer pocket on the bag. And so, and good morning, by the way. Hi, Olivia. Hi, Christina. This will be on the top little edge, showing on the outside of the bag. You know what I really, really, really like is the knit print binding. Where is that? If I have some handy, I'll show you. But it doesn't really go with the interior. It just would look really great on the outside of the bag. So, what do you think that? See, this looks better like that. Okay, I'm gonna go with that one. Maybe I'll use this one on the inside. We can have more than one binding, but this also means that I have to change my thread, and you know how I feel about that. It takes, 10 seconds. I really don't want to take 10 seconds. And of course, I'm out of a cream bobbin. I was going through so many of them yesterday. And I wasn't able to wind any because I have black and purple being wound on the other two machines. So, all right. So what are you guys up to today? Are you guys doing anything? Knitting or sewing? So I just tie off my thread spool just like that. Yeah, I think so too. If I showed you the knit print binding, you'd be like, yeah, you need to use that. It just doesn't go with the cats very well. It just goes really well with the purple. And I looked for a while for a lining to go with it. Like I was literally going to make the bag based on the binding, which, hey, that's a thing, right? But I just couldn't really find a binding or a lining that I really liked with it. I didn't want to use knit on the inside because it's kind of dark. Sorry, I cannot see the needle hole when it's on the left and my camera's right there, so it is a struggle to watch me knit, or not knit my machine, but thread. Why? Why? Go through. Wow. I feel like sometimes there's something in the eye of my needle, or my thread's just probably kind of heavy for this. Oh, I probably have a, you know what, let's change our needle. I think I have a size 14 needle in here, so we're going to get rid of it. It's time to change it anyway. I'll go back to the 16 or 18. So these are my needles. It's a brick of them, see? It's really cool, isn't this? Like this little compartment. It's so sophisticated. This is how they used to look. And I still buy this company as well. But look, it looks like a piece of gum. This is like how needles have come to me for forever. And then I started getting them like this. This is a pretty sophisticated little box too. Like when you go click and open it. And then this is what I'm currently getting. It's pretty crazy, huh? And then these just snap together. I have to buy them in a gross. All right. We'll get a bigger eye now. And then I promise that this isn't this bad when I do this when you're not watching me. It's like math. I'm really good at math unless you ask me to do it in front of you, and then I'm just like, 2 plus 3 is what? You know what I mean? See, no problem. All right, we stole this bobbin case from that machine that goes over there. We are ready to go. So I got it all ready, and then I decided, oh, I need a different color binding for my, or thread for my binding. Okay, so I'm just going to bind this top edge because normally you would just sew these right sides together and then turn and top stitch. But you know me, I like a little bit of contrast and I like to bind. So I'll just start from the inside of the bag and put the binding right sides together. The only repercussions this would have to my bag, and it doesn't because it's just a pocket, it's not a structural piece the bag goes together with, is that my bag will be, the pocket will be 1/4 of an inch taller because I'm not using the seam allowance. It'll be actually a 1/2 inch taller because it's a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so that's the only difference. And since the pocket is not a structural piece like the gusset or the main panel, it won't matter, like, because I've used that seam allowance. It just lays flat right on top of the other piece. So it's fun to do those kinds of details on the ones that are easy to accommodate. And so there's my little speech about doing binding. I know people say, oh, I make it look really easy. I did not know how to use bias or binding when I first started sewing it. I just like the look of it, and I'm the type of person that if I want to know how to do it, I figure it out, even if it is a really big struggle and a slog and takes me years. Like, I just really, you know, and once I get it, and then I figure it out. I figure out what works for me. I look for resources if they're available, but usually I have to figure out what'll work for me. Why is that so dark? And so when I do the bias and I'm attaching it, I'm going to brighten this up a little bit. Is that better? It's a little better, huh? So that was my first pass, right? You can see my stitch on my first pass, which I call my first step that I just sewed. And now when I'm on this side, because I started on the back side because that's the side no one's ever going to see, I'm finishing on the right side of the pocket. So I want this piece of binding to cover that. So I just pull it over to there with my awl, or what, your finger, whatever, and cover it up. Now I know that if I stitch to the left of this, it will cover it up, but it'll also show on this part, right? Because anything to the left of that's off of the binding. So if I stay on that stitch or to the right of it, I will stay inside this binding edge. Just depends on what look you want on the other side. So there we go. That's why it's always dead on. I figured out what'll work for me. So you're gonna have some shifting like this. See, like that right there? That's because my first pass, I put it on. The quilting cotton is very stretchy compared to other things. Canvas is a little less stretchy. So you could stabilize it by stitching all the way around the edge and making sure that it's less, you know, wonky like that. But we're about to attach this right to the bag, so we don't really need to. I will say that this pocket is only a 1/2 inch difference here and here, so make sure that you do your thing on the top to the right edge. Otherwise you're going to have a pocket that's either, let's see, I think it's a 1/2 inch, it would be a 1/2 inch wider, right? Let's see, if we did it this way, no, it'd be too small. So, well, and I didn't take the seam allowance off, so yeah, it would be like this much shorter. If you did that edge by accident, your pocket would be like this. So make sure you pick the right one. I should have said that before, just in case you're trying to go along with me. All right. So these are markings for my handle that it's going to come. And I'm just going to tack in a couple spots here. I'm also going to switch back my thread. Right, we're setting ourselves up for success, so I'm giving myself like 4 points of stability. I'm going to get my binding out of the way for now because I don't think we need it for a little while. And we're going to switch our thread color. I'm so into this purple color. Pull my thread through. That felt weird. I knew it. Okay. Sometimes it'll loop back on itself, and you don't want to do that. Okay, so, oh, yeah, you know what? I want to stitch across these right here. That's a bummer. I wish I would have thought that before I switched the thread out. So I made myself a little pocket template because you do a little bit of a curve on the bottom. So you actually sew the pocket on top of the pocket. And I have a feeling she did this. I mean, it's very cool looking, but it's also really great because if you don't do that, what'll happen is if you put anything small in this pocket, they'll get stuck in the corners down here. And that area, because it's already going to be sewn with a gusset and pulling, that things can get kind of caught down there. So I think that's why. So I'm just going to mark my pocket in a few places to kind of denote the center. And then that way it'll help me line up the template a little better. And what you can do is you can use chalk. Like I do have my handy dandy Choco liner. You know this thing, it draws such a nice line. It would be a nice way to do it. If you do not have one of these, this is what I would do. I actually hesitate to use chalk because even though it'll come off eventually, I just don't really like having to deal with it later. So what I would do if I don't have chalk, and I don't usually use it for something like this, is I would just go like this. I would just make myself some connect the dots, you know? And I can go pin to pin like this. Oops, that pin went flying. There we go, kind of like that. I'm going to make my starting and ending spots that I know are straight areas like that. And then I can just go around, pull out the pin as I go. Just like that. All right, so can you bear with me while I change my thread color one more time? Let's see, I'm going to just change the, I'll just change the top. I know that's the worst one, but hey. I really want to double stitch the top down because it's a high stress area where your hand's going in. And in the instructions, there's also an optional rivet that you can put on the top right there. I have some rivets right now because I bought some jean making sets, but the rivets were all brass or copper. So and my hardware on this is silver. Ooh, look at that. That threading went so good, didn't it? Hi, Cindy. You're saying yes to you'll let me thread the machine? I hope so. There's a little bit of a delay, so I'm like already done probably by the time that you got to say yes. All right. I'm just going to sew in my seam allowance here to make sure that my bobbin thread isn't pulling up. It's kind of hard to tell because it matches, but I can see, I'd be able to see the points. So what I'm going to do is just go, I took out my center mark up there. Just go to like here and here. Like that. I have a lot of open pins there. They really want to poke me. Let's see if I can fit one more stitch there. Needle down, pivot. No need to back tack, that'll be caught in the side seam there. Now I'll do the other one. And I'm just stitching right on top of my binding stitch. One more. Just like that. Pivot. There we go. So now this is fixed, just like that. And you know, you really want to do that because if you're shoving things into that pocket all the time, it is a high stress area. I'm gonna move my cart a little closer. And now we can stitch the pocket. You could do contrast stitching. I thought about it, but you like the brighter which one, Cindy? The binding? Did you like? I think I'm gonna do this one. It's already on there now, but maybe I'll use the brighter one on the lining because it does match really well. I tend to really like light linings for bags because I like to be able to see when I look inside my bag. It's almost like, you know, you don't have a light inside there. So having a lighter lining kind of helps reflect some light inside there, and you can find your things. This one is not a light lining, but I just love this fabric so much. I really liked the darker colorway. Just a second, I have someone on my door.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm busy right now, sorry.
Oh, I run the
All right, sorry guys. Someone's lost. I don't know where they need to go. Oh, you're packing for Rhinebeck. That'll be so fun. Have you ever been, Cindy? All right. Okay, I lost my pins at the top. Oh no, I don't need them because I already stitched. Already stitched. All right, we're all okay right here, right? I feel bad I couldn't help that guy out. He wasn't understanding what I was saying, but you know. I've expected FedEx or UPS because they come here all the time, but they haven't met you guys yet. All right, so I am starting at my top point there, and I'm going to come straight down. I'm aiming for my first curve. So when I sew things like this blind, I just look where I want to go, not where my needle is right now. Because I want it to go here. Your eye is going to guide you. Like it's just kind of a natural thing. Your machine sews a lot straighter than you give it credit for. If you let go, your machine probably sews a perfectly straight line. It's just an optical illusion sometimes when it doesn't look like it's doing it. And all these layers, it's going to want to push my canvas a little bit. And what I recommend when you get to that curve is to try and do it without stopping. It'll be smoother. Because if you have to kind of adjust as you're going, then you might have a little bit of trouble. Okay, so here's all my little dotted lines. I'll probably have to pause a little bit as I do it. And you could put in a lot of these little pins if you wanted. There we go. I'm going to get rid of my pins so I don't lose them. Remember, this is fixed up here, so I can't let it push too much of that fabric. It really wants to because it's thick. Okay, I got one stitch on my binding. I'm going to get rid of that. I don't want to see that. And I'm going to re-sew that little back tack right there. It's really important that you make sure that this up here is very sturdy because you know, you really are going to get a lot of wear and tear in there. That looks pretty good. This curve looks a little better than this one to me. It looks a little more fluid. And you can see how it pushed my canvas a little bit right there. There's so many layers that I'm just not going to even worry about it. So many layers. And I am getting a little bit of a pull there, but we can work with that. We can work with it. I'm just stabilizing it. It's cute. It's cute. All right. Now we're working on our handle. So I have made my webbing here. It's not webbing, I know. I'm going to edge stitch it so it looks nice. You could stitch it a few times, give it that kind of channel look. So true confession, I haven't put buttons and buttonholes in my Rita shirt dress that I finished on Saturday. I've been so busy trying to get, I've been like flat out working really hard Monday, Tuesday, and into yesterday getting stuff ready for sewing, and I absolutely have to do that. So I haven't gotten to it, but I'm kind of hoping today will be the day. So then I can photograph it. You can see how it fit. It turned out really good. I'm actually pretty pleased with it. All right, so here is my handle, and this is my loop, and this is my handle. So there's one on each side of the bag. It took me a while to figure that out. Like I was just mistaking one side for the other. I'm gonna get rid of all these little pieces of frayed thread from the fabric because those are the things that sneak out from when you attach the handle. I'm just cleaning it all up. really that, I don't really need to clean up my first starting stitches. It's just a pet peeve, so. All right, so I know from experience that what I like to do is I sew it like this and then I fold it up on itself like that. So I kind of know, this isn't the way I would mark this, so I'm trying to make sure I do it the right way. I'm not even sure what the allowance is, so I'm just going to do what I want, so. This also just makes it so that it's nice and stable. Like that. I know it's supposed to be 3.5 inches apart, or 2 inches apart. Wait, 3 inches apart? Let's make sure we got that right. 1.5, 1.5. Here's my center line. My center line. I'm gonna make sure I got that right first before I'm just gonna tack that. Make sure I got it centered. I don't care about that being a tad longer than that one because it's all gonna fold up like this and get covered. That looks centered to me. This is something like, this is worth making sure you have it centered. It will look wonky if you don't. And see, it's not. See, that was it. I pulled my pin out and I kind of lost sight of where that marking was. So the way we can do it is just fold it in half like this. And line up the strap to the other one just like that. And then we know that it's symmetrical. Does that make sense? I'm just gonna tack it and see. That looks way better to me. Now I'm just gonna make sure that I stitch them the same depth because I don't want it to be uneven this way either. Any good job is worth the setup, right? Setup is always like what ensures the rest of it is a smooth sailing trip. It's worth making sure that you have your things set up properly. It's kind of like the same thing. It's easier to do it now than go back and do it later. Oh, but I flipped my handle. That was, oh. You guys, you didn't tell me. You see that? My friend teased me that I'm blaming my mistakes on you guys. Yeah, well, you know. Okay, so see, I need it to be like this. But I can see right where it was. Just like that. Sure, it's all okay. Yeah. This is the front of the bag. That's another reason why. All right, now we're going to make it permanent. And for me, I'm actually going to clip these corners a little tiny bit. It does not prevent me from getting that sticking out the sides. It does prevent this little frayed edge from sneaking out a little easier. I find that the corners, like when you're at the ends of those, they tend to wing out a little bit. This way, maybe I can prevent some of that. And I'm going to encase that, the whole thing, in this stitching right here. And so I'm going to go a little bit above where my raw edge underneath there is and encase that whole thing. Just getting my needle right where I want it. And you can just fold up your bag when it's going under the machine head like this to kind of make it easier to handle. I have some zipper sliders here and a ruler. I don't usually have these extra things here, so they keep getting in my way. So I'm just going to use my awl to make sure that this little corner, can you see that? The corner that I clipped right there and the raw edge is just completely under my stitching there. Like that is not, that's not really that acceptable for me, seeing that little seam there. But I'm going to let it go. And I'm going to do a slash like that. You could do an X. This reminds me of my early sewing days doing it like this, so I'm going to do it like that. So let's see. Okay. Just making sure that's going to enclose. Fold up the bag, pivot. I'm going to try and get right on that original stitching. I'm going to do my slash going the other direction, so I'm going to go down this one more time. Like that. Now we have a handle, just like that. Looks good, doesn't it? And now I'm going to add a little cute detail. So she has you put something decorative right here. It's the front of the bag. So I'm going to do a little cat right here. She has a leather patch on the sample, which is really cute. And the way I'm going to do this, I'm just going to make my own patch by sewing all the way around, and then I'm going to turn it right side out and just top stitch it down. This looks a little unstraight though, so I'm going to try and true it up a little bit. It doesn't look as off as it looks to me visually. Maybe it was just that little bit. Isn't he cute? I really tried to get this fabric for my line, but I had missed the boat. I'll bet there'll be a reprint someday, but you know, I don't know if it'll be appropriate then. My mom bought this piece, and she could see how much I liked it and was sad that I missed out on it. I had gotten some personally, but I just never got some for chicken boots. And so I'm going to do a little bit. Okay, so the reason I did that, can you see that? So I went around in a square, but I kind of went onto this here. And that's so that when I turn it right side out, this little section here is going to want to naturally turn to the inside rather than trying to fight it. This canvas is pretty stiff. Just turning all my webbing pieces, I'll tell you, like if you make your own webbing like I did, just be prepared that I had to do that off stream. It took me a little while to turn those right side out. A while. But I really wanted them, so I thought, okay, if you were pre-cutting your webbing, I would have come to the stream with it pre-cut, right? So I had to come with those straps kind of pre-made. My little guy. I'll use my awl to turn all these corners. This. I kind of slide it in there like this. Pull. I like this tapered tailor's awl because it's not as sharp. The sharp one would just puncture the fabric. It's great for other things, but just not this kind of thing. I don't use the other one. I think it's better for maybe quilters. I don't know, I'm not a quilter. I have a quilting question right now too. I need to find someone to ask it. For that tamarack jacket. Pretty excited to make that. I think I am gonna make a sleeveless vest version because I really want more vests in my life. And I really want to use denim. But the only denim I have is stretch, and I don't know if I'm gonna have trouble. I should just sew a piece of it. That's what I need to do. I'm not gonna trust even if someone tells me what to do. So All right, so see, so when remember how I left those little edges right there? Like I went around like that. So see now, this wants to do this, go in so much easier than if these were open to the edge. I would have to try and turn the corner as well. It works if you have enough room to do it. Sometimes you don't. This time I did. It's kind of at the limit of how much room I would have had. I want to get rid of this stray thread. It's like poking out of the middle there. Just setting myself up. I'm not going to hand stitch this shut. I'm just going to top stitch it down when I go around the perimeter. So I'm trying to make it look as nice as possible right now because I'm about to immortalize it. It looks a little bit wonky to me. What do you guys think? Isn't it cute? Do you guys like cats? I love cat fabrics. There's so many good cat fabrics. Dog fabrics are so much harder to find. So I'm going to do this right here. He's a little tall. Since there's a 1/2 inch seam allowance there. Fold up my bag, turn the corner. So I'm just going to stitch that down. No one will ever know that that was opened except you guys. So, and this is a non-functional piece, so it doesn't have to be triple stitched or any of that kind of hoo-ha. There we go. All right, that's the front of my bag. We can set that aside right now. Let's see what we have next. I'm going to stitch my straps, I think, right now, so I don't forget to do it later. I was going to do all 4 of those at one time, and then I did it. Yeah, little cat bags, I know. I was like, is that too cutesy? But, you know, the fabric's going to be on the inside. I might make it at the zipper top. You know, like flip those to put the cats on the outside for that. So you could choose to put the seam, if you make your own webbing, you could choose to put that on the side here. But what I find when you do that is that one side will be longer than the other because the seam draws in the fabric a little bit, and so it makes it a little shorter. So I just centered it. I know it means that people will see the seam sometimes, but that bugs me less than the strap being really tight and a little bit shorter. So it's just all matter what you like. So I opened up the seam allowance and pressed it. That was also a struggle because trying to get something in there to open it up and those, you know, down here at the middle was a little tough. I didn't use any interfacing or anything on the strap either. I just used the canvas. So. Well, there's no reason for me to sew across the end. I just did it so that I could just keep, I just turned and started sewing again. That's all. No reason. All right, so I'm going to do the interior pocket. Let me see if where those pieces are. Let's see, here's my other bag. Here they are right here. Okay, so I use a zipper with sliders that I attach myself here. I have a lot. I could not find 2 zippers that matched each other that I had here in the shop. I have a lot of stuff here, so I really wanted to use stuff I had on hand. And I also didn't want to use a metal zipper because I didn't have anything silver to match my hardware. And I'm honestly not a really big fan of brass zippers because it's scratchy when I put my hand in the bag and it catches on things. So I use the nylon zipper, and I'm using a cream one instead. So that's my reasoning for my zipper. So the pocket, you need to mark, this is the lining of the bag. This is the lining of the pocket. And the way she has you sew this is a zippered pocket, but it is a great, easy way to put a zipper in a zippered pocket. You do not have to sew it like a welt pocket would normally be. So you mark your square. If you can see my chalk on there, I just used my Choco liner. And if you don't have one of these, if it's on the lining of something like this, you could use a pencil, like a soft lead pencil or a fine line pen or something like that. If you have water-soluble chalk, or water-soluble ink, or a chalk pen, or whatever you want, just do what works for you. So I marked the center of my pocket lining with that little, can you see that? So what I did was I folded it in half, clipped the edge. Now I can see the center. Marked the center of where this needs to go. I marked a parallel line to the top. And I'm just going to lay that right there on top of that so that I know I have it. And I'm going to sew around this box, right sides together. I read the instructions. I'm pretty sure I'm doing this right. I was pretty excited. It was kind of, I don't want to call it a cheater way to do this, but because I see bags made in the industry like this all the time. And I really love that this is what she picked to do this. It makes it a lot easier for people to do it. They're not as afraid to put a zipper in there. They'll probably attempt it because this is the easiest way to do it. And it kind of speaks to a production technique that you would probably see in the production industry. So you guys know I really like that. So, all right, now you're going to cut this down the center like this. And when you get close, you just need to make sure you go into those corners. Just make sure you don't go through your stitching. Really important. Let's go right up to it. This is seam allowance, so that little weird thing I just did there, that's totally fine. No big deal. What's really important is these corners. This is the most important part of this clipping because we're about to turn this into the inside of the bag like this. Like this. And so the better we clip it, the easier it will turn to the inside right here at those corners. See how they're puckery? So it really wants to be clipped really close to that little corner. I just like to see how close I do it, and then I see how close I need to go. This is kind of like the Charlie Captain, remember that? Those are our stress points. Those puckers will not go away unless you clip really closely. So here's my little edge here. And so when she says to roll the seam allowance in your fingers, that's this. This. Because you want to get it right on the edge like that. I'm going to turn on my iron. Because you'll definitely want to press this. Finger pressing it now, getting to those box corners there. And you'll see that my pocket lining is upside down right here. I did that on purpose because when you finish your pocket, you're going to fold it up to the top there. And when we're looking at it from the outside, oh, he lost his head. Oops. You'll see the kitty's right side up in there. No one's going to see it, but you know, it's just a nice detail. So if you want yours to do that, and there is a reason that it would be really important because maybe it's a smaller print that would be really noticeable if it was upside down, you want to put this on upside down to the outer piece. Yay for one-way prints and fussy cutting, right? Okay. So not bad, not bad. Let me just iron this opening. Because now we're going to put the zipper on. Okay, so there's my opening right there. Not bad. Look at that. That's pretty good. It's a little puckery right there. That's fine. We're going to look at it on this side. This is the side that's more important. This is inside the bag. So, yeah, Olivia, I mean, it's really pretty easy. You're just sewing a hole right in the middle of the fabric with finished edges, right? All right, so let me iron that really quick. I accidentally had drawn my original chalk line on the right side of the lining earlier. Okay, so here is my zipper. And I just cut a chunk off of the roll. I didn't really measure it because I didn't have the measurement handy when I was over there. So now I'm going to put my slider on better. That's what I'm going to do. When you have to do these, it's really important that the teeth right here be even. One tooth goes in before the other, so it's always going to be cockeyed, but it should be cockeyed by one tooth, not several. That's better. All right, so I'm going to line it up. The edges there. Another good reason why I like this, you can make it any length you want. I'm going to secure my edges right now. They're going to get secured several times in the next step. But just in case I go crazy and I move my slider and it goes right off the edge, then I'd have to start over that part over again. All right, so she says to, she recommends gluing the zipper on there. Okay, now, just so you know, if you're buying a pre-bought zipper, you'll probably use something that has smaller coil, which is the teeth of the zipper. This is a coil chain zipper, whereas the other kind with the big chunky teeth is a not coil chain, it's tooth. So that's just a different kind. I want it to go this way, just my preference, like that. So she recommends like gluing the zipper to the back of your pocket there. I'm not going to do that. I don't have that kind of glue. Yeah, it just sounds fussy for me. I'm kind of not very fussy when it comes to things like that. All right, so this is kind of sitting there nicely now. Okay, it didn't move. I might go for it. Just making sure my zipper is going to the edges of the fabric. Doesn't really have to, but because mine's raw, I want to kind of encase it in the last seam as well, just as an extra reassurance. And, you know, I cut it that length, so I want it to be that length. So now I'm just going to stitch around my zipper. Just like this. When I get to my zipper slider, I have to move it. I could have ironed this a little better. I am aware. You could pin it. Gluing it, obviously, you wouldn't need to pin it. I feel like it's wanting to push my zipper a really weird way. You see that? It keeps pushing it down there. Hopefully this is working. I think mainly it's because I'm not using a zipper foot. This is a really small opening for this size zipper coil. I don't ever use a zipper foot. So that's why it's pushing it out of the way. My presser foot does not want to be on the coil. That's why you use a zipper foot. And so here, I can put my zipper foot on. It'll be easier. It'll look nicer. You know, I know you guys want me to. Like this. So my zipper foot doesn't have a left or a right. It's just very thin, and I can use it for either side. My needle position can't change. Like on a home sewing machine, you can switch your needle to go left or right. I can't do that. So that's why they just give me this kind of two-sided kind. I'm going to take all the stitches out. I don't like that I got a loop, and I don't like that that I'm going to have to back tack over there. I can see my stitches better on this side. There we go. Like that. This will be way better. I should have done this to begin with. Sometimes you just got to do it to know, right? All right. You can't sew right over the ends of a brass zipper, so if you do use a brass zipper, make sure that's the tape without teeth going through there. All right, so this is when I want to make sure I don't get any wonkiness, so I'm going to kind of hold it. I'm going to close my zipper as well. Let's go past. So yeah, you'll notice because my zipper's never been used before, it's closed on either side, which is kind of nice. Eventually, it won't do that once it's been opened all the way. All right, there we go. There's our zip opening. So now I'm going to shut it all the way open. Like this. So rather than having to sew it like a welt pocket where you would do right sides together and do the whole turn thing, that is what you're doing. If I use contrast thread, you wouldn't even see the contrast bobbin thread to match the zipper. It would look a little classier. So now you sew up your lining. And remember, all of this is inside of the lining of the bag. No one's ever going to see this. Only you and me know about it. So now you sew the top of your pocket. Well, I'm going to put my regular foot back on. Sewing with a zipper foot is just not that great. It's just not enough purchase of the foot on the fabric, you know. You really need that traction. It's important. There's a lot going on right there. Got to give it everything we can. So. All right. Good to make sure it's on there secure because the last thing you want is your presser foot falling off while you're sewing because it's really dangerous. And yes, that's happened to me before. I used to have an old machine that the presser foot was, I think the threads weren't stripped, but they were just such a hair different in their threading. I'm just going to sew across the top, and now I'm going to sew it from this side because I can see better when I sew from the pocket side. Move your bag out of the way. I'm just reinforcing this area here. There we go. There's our inside pocket. A little cat fabric. You can put a third fabric in there. Not bad, except my talk. Well, I have a little tuck right there. Let's see if we can get it out from when we came back around here. I think I can press that out the rest of the way. Looks good. So that's our inside of our lining. Here's my other lining piece. Let's do our top zipper now. I don't think we've sewn zippers on here before, have we? That's funny. I sew zippers every day. Yeah, so let's do our top zipper. So I decided that I think I'm going to do the cat fabric just on the outside of the bag at the top of the zipper opening. And I fussy cut it so that it lines up. It's not going to be incredibly obvious, but you know. So here's my zipper, and I'm going to put my slider on right now. Now, you could sew this without the slider on it. Totally fine. There's advantages and disadvantages to either. Doesn't, you know. Okay, so I'm going to do, so I want to make sure I do it right as far as the matching up of the fabric. So you're going to sew it right sides together. Just going to make a sandwich with your zipper in the inside. That's the peanut butter and jelly. Now I don't really need a zipper foot for this because there's plenty of room on my zipper tape to get past the zipper. I'll just have to slide my slider when I get close to it because you can see it's kind of wonky there. Stop with the needle down, and then I'm just going to pull the zipper past my presser foot just like that. Line it all back up again. You don't really want to have to pull too far and make too big of an opening with your zipper because then it can kind of pull apart, you know. The zipper can pull apart. Makes it a little harder to line up. I'm not worried about my zipper being longer. I can cut that off. I do want these two to match though, so I'm just trying to keep an eye on it because remember, your top fabric feeds a little bit differently than your bottom fabric sometimes, especially if they're different types of fabric or if they're pretty heavy or you got a lot going on like we do right now. So I'm like lining up those three edges, just like that. I'm pulling the bottom one because it wants to ooch out to the right a little bit. These long distances, this is when that kind of, those kinds of shenanigans can happen. And you wanted your zipper right sides to the outer fabric. And so I know that my bag is purple on the outside everywhere else, but it's going to be the cats on this spot. That's why I did it right sides together on this. And now I'm going to top stitch it right away. I should probably sew across the ends of my zipper, and I will in a second. You're just trying to get this directly on top, one on top of the other. You wouldn't want to pull this so that it accidentally does this, like this ooches this way more. You want to get it right on top of itself right here. So I'm kind of looking at that to see if I'm doing that. What feels right on top of itself sometimes feels a little bit off. And so it's good to check because it'll be really obvious on the underneath side. And you wouldn't also want this fabric to creep too far towards your zipper teeth because then you're zipping right on top of the fabric and that's when those kinds of issues happen. I'm going to put more fabric right here so it brightens up for you guys. Does that help? Tell me if it gets dull or dark like that. So I'm holding it like this. Like all three I'm pulling kind of separately, but at the same time. You could also understitch it, but I think you'll feel the zipper works better if you do this edge stitch / top stitch type of thing. It'll make it all nice and flat and tidy. Let's go right over our zipper right now. Like that. Okay. There we go. To our other one. I noticed my interfacing got a little short on this piece. I don't know why. This bag really sucked up my interfacing I just bought. So this is a good tip. Like, don't line this up. This edge here to the zipper edge. Make sure you're lining it up to this. So get this parallel across that because the zipper is longer than that side, and it's probably even more so on the other side. So you want to make sure that you don't fall into that trap by accident. Did I run out of bobbin? I don't think so. Yeah, I did. I can tell. I can always tell. I have plenty of bobbins. So I'm going to keep winding cream ones since I'm obviously really low on those. Pay that machine back. I feel like all those little things I'm doing are gifts to myself in the future. Because, you know, if I rob myself and then I don't pay myself back, later on, if I'm in a really big hurry or I need to do something, I will be pretty upset that I left myself without a bobbin. And that's not something I usually do. It's just because I've been trying to wind bobbins in other colors when I primarily use cream for everything. So then all the other bobbins get low. Like I'll use all the black ones and then all the blue ones and all the purple ones. And then I'm like, oh shoot, I gotta hand wind this. And then, so then I kind of had to pay myself back with those. So try and just keep up on it, prevent it from happening in the first place. All right, so I'm like a third of the way through right now. I'm gonna start lining up this end down here. And I want it to match this piece, not the zipper. I'm gonna cut that zipper off. So that's my goal. Now, one thing to note about zipper tape is that it's kind of an interesting material. Like, it's not stretchy, but it can get wavy. And I think that's because this edge right here, like, let's call it its selvage edge, is very tightly finished. But this here is very open and kind of whooshy. And so sometimes I feel like, you can see, like, see how my, I don't know if you can see that the zipper gets wavy even though it's being held tight. That's part of what's going on there. And you just got to kind of get the hang of outsmarting it. That's what I think of it as. I'm going to pull my zipper slider past. You're not doing something wrong. It's just that between the bottom layer getting pulled with the feed dogs, the top layer not having any assistance for that, so that the presser foot's almost like it's pushing the fabric out of the way, going the opposite direction, plus your zipper tape being a totally different fabric, you have a lot going on there. Zippers aren't necessarily hard to sew in, but you are managing this third item. I'm definitely backstitching on these because even though that's going to be encased in a seam, I am pulling on this right here. That's why I've been backstitching there. So I'm going to start from this end and do it from this side and go that way, because I did this side from this end to this way, because I really like doing that with stitching that is near each other. I like to start from the same end to go in towards the other end. It's not always possible. It's like only possible like half the time. But this time it's possible. And I do that so that there's symmetry in this whole push-pull thing with my feed dogs and my presser foot. Again, we're trying to get this right on top of itself. I feel like you can't really see a whole lot there. There we go. Does that help? You see, like it, until I pull it, wants to collapse in. It's making sure I'm right on top of itself. I might be able to get past the slider with this step without opening it. Let's see. Someone said that they ordered this whole kit, or I don't know if it's I don't think they ordered a kit, but they ordered stuff and it's going to be here Saturday and they're making the same thing. So that's cool. I can't wait to see that one. It was really hard for me to pick out fabric. Like I had so many things I wanted to use and then I'd be missing like one element, like, oh, you know, I don't have a zipper to go with that or whatever. All right, so that's the top of our bag, right? Easy peasy sewing in a zipper. It's just straight stitches. Right? And then here's the other side. Nice and clean. If I wanted right now, I can make a change and make this the top of the bag. If I had a reverse slider, I could pull this off and put a slider on, and then this would be the zipper showing. But the only reverse sliders I have in stock right now are black. So, oh well. This will have to do. I'm going to put my, you know, overdone zip tabs on right now so I don't forget. Let's get rid of all this excess stitching here. Like that. So they go right here. That's pretty cute. I think the problem I'm going to have with these being so thick is when I do the final binding step. So that's what I got to watch out for. I'm going to clean all this up now, just like this. I don't know what I had that purple grosgrain ribbon for. It seems kind of familiar, but I cannot remember what it was for, and it matches so good. I love it when stuff like that happens, you know? Okay, I'm going to trim all this off. There we go. Okay, so this is ready to attach the top of my bag, and I could actually sew the rest of the gusset right now since we're here. So I'm putting the purple to the outside of the bag, just not on the top where the zipper is. So I'm not doing that wrong. And you're going to encase these seams. You know what's great about this? No serger. You don't need a serger. You don't need to do French seams because we're going to bind the last two steps. We'll bind the entire bag completely on itself. I just want to make sure I get my cat print kind of the same direction, I think. Like that. I know one's on the inside, one's on the outside, but I think it'll visually make more sense for me. If I'm sometimes picky, you know, I'm not that picky, so. All right, 1/2 inch seams, we're back to that. Lots of layers right now. Oh, I actually don't, oh, this is great. I don't have to bind this edge right here, so doing my really beefy zip stop hole thingy is kind of perfect because we just encase it in a seam. I am going to go over it kind of gently, and I do have a size 16 or 18 needle on. Respect, right? Gotta respect it. That's all I need to do. Now I'm going to do the other side. So this is the gusset that goes around the perimeter of the bag. It's what gives the bag depth, like volume. It's probably the one thing that sets a lot of bags apart is if it has a way to give it volume and not be flat. You can do the folds at the bottom of a bag and stitch across the ends. It's a really big fabric waster to cut out. But it does work. It's another way to do it if you wanted, you know, like a paper bag, like a grocery bag. You can do that kind. All right. My machine is made for this. It's like, bring it on. All right. Okay. So I'm gonna top. Oh, I keep thinking this little thing is a thread. All right, so see, now I have this circle. It's the outside of my bag. I think this bag is bigger than I'm picturing. I'm going to top stitch this right now, just like I did the zipper. This is also going to reinforce this seam. Like that. So we've kind of done some of the scary, what I think most people will think of as the scary bits already, right? We're already like past the zippers. So cute. Okay, there's that. Let's see, what do we have here? We have Let me organize this. We have this and this. We have our back, which has all 3 layers, right? Just making sure it doesn't. Okay. I might leave it out. I was just wondering where this was. Because I'm going to put stiffener here. So I'm going to think about that. There's my front. There's my other side. And this side gets the straps. So we'll do the straps, I think, and then we'll call it a day. All right. This is the little loop handle that goes on the top. If I do that last. I've got my 2 backpack straps. And I've got my loop. And you know what? I do need these backup loops. Pretty sure that I had. I thought these said these were optional, but I don't think these are optional. Okay. So you might have to bear with me to figure these things out. I fussy cut these as well because I want the cats to show on the back. I started having a lot of fun with the cats. Can you tell? So this is how these work. So I'm doing these little triangles. So I didn't have enough fabric there because this piece, it's not stated to cut it on the bias. Mine is because I fussy cut it. And so to do that, it used a lot more fabric and I lost a little corner. Doesn't matter. It's in the seam allowance. And so you turn under this edge. You fold it in half like this. Like that. And then you cut this part off. Like this. Sorry, kitty. Okay. Bear with me. Okay, that's that one. And now for this one. I'm going to fold this long edge. Same, I lost my corner on this one too. And see, like this is such a good example. Look at, I cut these to match, but the bias overnight has relaxed because of that bias grain line. So it's a good example of what the bias does when you're not watching. This. Line up those edges. Yeah, you know, if you were buying a pattern that had printed pattern pieces, they would just do this for you, and it looks like this. It just has a little extra. It's like a half square triangle. I learned that in quilting terms, and then like a little bit of a seam allowance there. And so it's like this as well. And you insert this like this. Let's see. Pretty sure I'm gonna sit it down at the bottom. Honestly, I'm gonna actually do it right sides together. I don't see why I couldn't. As long as I do it where the fold line is, right? Like that. It was probably just too hard to explain how to do that. There you go. And then I'm going to top stitch it. And then this gets sewn in the seam of the backpack like this. And then the straps get looped through there. So actually, you know what? This is a problem for me. Let's see. I didn't make these 1.5 inches wide. So you know what I'm going to do? Okay, let me explain what I'm thinking about right now. Okay, so the problem with hardware, especially when you're using webbing with things like this, loops, there's all kinds of technical lingo for all these things, and they all are slightly different from each other. So this is called a 3-bar slider. It comes in various forms. Sometimes you see them in nylon or plastic that are on a backpack, and it's like bigger and plastic. The thing is, this distance in here can be a troublesome thing, because if your fabric can turn over on itself in there, then you end up with this, right? Now, this is already set up to fail because I didn't use 1.5 inch wide webbing right here. I used 1 inch, and so it's going to do that no matter what. So I'm going to prevent this right now because it's a pet peeve. I think it's a pet peeve for all of us, and a lot of us just tolerate it because we just think that that's how it has to be. And then you end up getting like one really high-end bag somewhere, and that's not happening, you know, and you're like, oh, why can't my other bags be like this? And so when you see small bag makers like me using hardware like this, you're hoping that as a bag maker, you get good quality stuff. Like, I know I have access to all that stuff. I don't buy it because it's a lot of stuff to stock. Like, I do use it for certain things, but not much. You should see the catalogs on it. You'd be mesmerized by how many millions of different options there are for hardware, right? So, and once you start making different bags, you start finding that you need like different widths and things like that, or different functions, and it ends up adding a lot of SKUs, and you have to buy 5,000 of them. So there is, you know, that. So you just hope that a bag maker got access to really good stuff, and it has like a narrow distance here. It's really well made. It's not going to crack or break. It's not going to bend, because all those things are a distinct possibility. So I'm going to steal from my long straps, my actual backpack straps. I'm actually going to make them a little shorter too. And I'm going to stitch across them. I'm going to do as much as I can to prevent them from twisting inside there. So I think I still have seam allowance and room like that. So I'm going to cut this one off right here. I'll cut one off of each strap. If that amount of adjustment makes a difference on my strap, then my strap was too small to begin with. So I'm going to take a chance that I'm sure there's a lot of adjustment available on the strap, and just steal from my already made strap. Okay? And I'm going to throw these away. So that's my little thing about hardware. It's not easy to find good quality hardware that you can make the minimum on, and someone who will deal with you, and someone that'll deliver. There's so many factors with it. And then you're also probably, you know, have to look at where it's made. If there's strikes happening at the docks, because most likely it's made somewhere else and it's freighted here, which is like an issue. Like, we had that issue with sliders for our zipper for a while. The strikes at the San Francisco port were affecting, we weren't getting enough sliders. It was a nightmare. I was borrowing them from other companies. Another company that I used to work at, I just begged, borrowed, and steal to get them 100 at a time to help me. Please help me. They were very nice. They always helped me. All right. I'm still going to top stitch this. I'm just doing this to position it from the start. This is a high stress area, so I'm going to do everything in my power to make it last as long as possible, because I don't want my backpack to fail me. Like that. I'm going to hope that I'm doing it right still. I've never actually sewn these before, so this is kind of fun. Like that. Now I'm going to top stitch along here. My machine does not like those really short edges to start on when they're angled like that. It wants some purchase, you know what I mean? Okay, get rid of these pins. So that one's gonna go there. This backpack would make a really nice gift to sew somebody. You wouldn't have to fit it, you know what I mean? Like, it's great. So that's my little backpack strap holders. And then I marked where they go. Let's line up all my layers here. This is my inner lining. Remember, I'm just using some extra canvas. I fused it, and then I'm using extra canvas because some of the pieces needed all three, or needed like the 2 different styles. What is this? Is this here's my lining. So let's see. This is the back of the bag, so I'm going to put my pocket one on here like this. I'm just going to lay it on here. I might as well do all layers right now. It's funny, I would have thought this layer would have gotten a little shorter because of the pocket, but I guess it makes sense that I could get longer too. And my notch is this one right here. I marked all my pieces before I met with you guys today because it said to, like, I looked ahead in the directions. Because that's one thing, I don't know about you guys, but I really like it when I don't have to like go back to the pattern. So I just take the time to do all that and set it up. It's just more fun. Like we're not doing this, right? Because we have to. We do it because we like to. So here, see how my seam allowance right here is shorter here than here? Because it got a little wonky there. Line it up to that and not that. Because if you line it up to that, you might not catch that in. I see this all the time with people. And then check. How's it look? This is the outside of my bag. So there's my backpack straps. Like that. And then we're going to actually put our straps on now. So I'm going to tell you. Oh, hello. How do you say your name? Aubrey? Or Magali? You're in France? Bonjour. Okay, so we're making our straps. And the first thing you do is you go to the center thing. And I'll tell you, like, we did this bag where we had to do these. And I had to sit there and figure it out and do it over and over again before I remembered. Because this is a confusing step. So I think I figured out a way that makes sense to me. And I just break it down step by step. And don't think about it too hard or too much in the future, right? So the first thing you do, go to the center of your slider. I'm not even going to look at her directions on how to do this because I have figured it out and I don't want to confuse myself. So then I'm going to hem it over. You really want this to be secure. High stress area, right? I'm going to stitch it again, enclosing that seam allowance, and it gets really tough to get close to the slider there. Like that. Trim it up, make it look nicer. Okay. I want this to look nice because that's going to show more than anything else. All right, we're going to set that one aside. Now we're going to do our other one. And it doesn't matter, like, what side you go in, whatever. Like, that part, it's fine. You don't have to worry about that. Like, you can go either way. It will matter later. It doesn't matter now. Do a little bit more. Hem it under. You can do a bigger hem and do more reinforcement. I'm always a fan of that. I'm gonna do 2. Here, my machine, the screw to my needle is hitting the 3-bar slider. I'm cutting it really close right now. Okay, there we go. Clean it up. That. Okay, and so here we go. See if I can do it right the first time. So here we go. Here's my slider. I like to do this strap against this fold edge right here. So I'm going to go through my strap here. and through here. That's it. Now it's adjustable. Like if you skip this, it won't be adjustable. And then you just tack it. Where's my center line? Oh, I think I lost my center. So I'm gonna mark my center like that. Make sure everything's lined up. That's just extra thread from the canvas. That's what happens with canvas, you know, it kind of unravels. And let's top stitch this one down. Like that. Voila. One strap. Okay, so now do the other one. I kid you not. Like, how many of these did I put on backwards a few times? Thank you, my golly. I'm glad you're here. It must be the evening for you. We're making the Making backpack. That's what it's called. From the Makingzine, sorry. Okay, so there's my strap. Put it here at the center, just like that. There we go. I'm going to tighten these up so that there's the least amount flopping around when I sew, the better. Very cute, huh? It's my backpack. Okay, we'll just add our loop and then we'll call it a day until Saturday. Like this. There we go. So we have that. We have our front bag. Pocket. We have our zipper gusset. All we have left now is to put the bag together and bind it, and I can't believe we just got through almost the entire bag. I could totally finish it right now, but I'm not going to because I'm trying to do these two-part streams. So I hope you'll join me Saturday where we can finish it up. And gosh, I mean, I'm tempted to make another one because it was so fast and easy. What do you guys think? Like, shoot. It's always better to make multiples, correct? So there we go. There's the top. Backpack straps. Show you all of it. We got our curved pocket. Like that. Our lining. Our zippered pocket. And if you're just joining, you can re-watch this soon. I know, Olivia, it's really cute. I think I might make another one on Saturday maybe. It's so quick, you know? Like, I think that last step will, like if I sew it with you guys, it'll probably take like a half hour and then it's done. Maybe a little more. I mean, maybe I'll try and drag it out a little bit, you know? So, all right, guys. Well, look for my pictures of my Rita shirt dress. I'll be posting those hopefully today. I'm going to do the buttons and buttonholes on those. And I'm also going to hem the sleeves of the Osaka kimono. But I already posted pictures of that, and it looks great on Cricut. She likes it. So hopefully she'll actually wear it because I didn't get to keep it. But it turned out great. I'll make another one of those someday and probably modify the sleeve for me. And then we're going to plan the tamarack jacket. So maybe I could even start a little bit of that on Saturday. But I think I'll probably keep it to just this backpack here. So... all right, I'll see you guys on Saturday, 11 a.m. Pacific, and catch me on Instagram at SoSoLive, and trying to upload more videos, just side videos, but my serger has not been acting good since we talked last. Never had an issue. I've had it for ages, so I just need to give it some TLC, I think, and it'll snap back into place. and maybe I'll be able to then do the couple of things I have planned because there are surgery ones too. So, all right, guys, thanks for coming. I will see you Saturday at 11 a.m. and I really appreciate you being here. So take care. Bye.